Hey everyone, before we get started, I've got a brand new t-shirt coming out. Go to maliceshirts.com between September 9th through the 23rd for a limited edition I Mushroom Cloud New York t-shirt. Again, these will only be sold between September 9th and September 23rd on maliceshirts.com. Now let's get into the show.
Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Good afternoon, bonjour, hi. This is Michael Malice. Let that be your welcome for the next half hour. We have with us a very special guest, fresh from the campaign trail, Maxime Bernier, who's the head of the People's Party of Canada. And let me give you a little bit of background why I was so interested in speaking with you. I adore Canada. I spent my birthday there a few years ago. I'm wearing a shirt that I bought in Toronto. I adore the warmth of the Canadian people, which is kind of ironic given the climate. As a New Yorker, when I was in Toronto, seeing the international background of people and how everyone lived peacefully together was something I found very inspiring, which we could have used a little bit more of New York. And I have just recently left New York City to move to Austin because New York City had gotten so oppressive. And for me, as a foreigner, watching what's happening in Canada is extremely disturbing. And let me give some background to the Americans who are watching this now. In America, we have states. In Canada, they have territories and provinces. In America, we have congressional districts. In Canada, they have ridings. In America, we have a president. And in Canada, you have a dictator. So explain to me, first of all, so in America, obviously, we have elections every 4 years. In Canada, it's every 4 years as well, unless the prime minister dissolves parliament and calls for an election. Why, in the midst of, in Trudeau's words, this horrible pandemic, is he calling an election? This seems to me like absolute madness. Like during World War II, for example, there was a crisis. The British government, they just kept the same cabinet until the emergency was solved. What is the reasoning behind calling an election?
You're right, Michael, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. Yes, I'm the leader of the People's Party of Canada. That's the real conservative free market and also the party that fight for freedom here in Canada. We are a small populist party, but we are growing. We are around 10% in the polls right now in Canada. But Justin Trudeau decided to have an election in the middle of his term. You're right. Usually it's a 4 years term. In the middle of his term, because the polls and survey was good for him. And now I think he's not so happy with that because it's not sure if he will have a majority. He had a minority government, so he had to be sure to have the support of the Socialist NDP or the Bloc Québécois. And it was easy for him to have the support on his important legislation. So he would have been able to continue on their two terms. But he wanted to have a majority, and now we are in the middle of the election. The election date will be the 20th of September. And that will be between him and also the Conservative Party, that is conservative only in name, because they share the same views on everything for this campaign: climate change, imposing a carbon tax, mass immigration, and also the last one, imposing a vaccine passport, mandatory vaccine passport all across the country.
One of the things that I'm known for is my quote that conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit. And in America, there is at least an appearance of the Republican Party fighting hard against the Democrats, even though when push comes to shove, they end up voting for bigger bills and bigger government at the same time. In Canada, it seems even more of a farce. It seems like there's not even a pretense between the Conservative Party of today and Trudeau's Liberals.
Absolutely, Michael. They're the same. And that's why we created the People's Party based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. And all our policies are in line with these principles. And I believe that's why we are growing during this campaign. It's going very well. I did a rally in Manitoba. We had more than 1,000 people there. And people are fed up because the Conservative and the Liberals are going to the left. They're the same party on COVID-19, on the COVID hysteria. They were okay with lockdowns. They were okay with curfew. We had a curfew here in Quebec, stay-at-home orders, and all these draconian measures. The Conservatives and the Liberals, they agree with all that. So that's why our party is growing right now. And the only option for people who wants to fight for their freedoms and having their life back like before COVID-19, we are the only option.
Canada has a parliamentary system and historically is much more multi-party than the States. Before Trudeau, his Liberal Party, which has for a long time been the governing party in many ways of Canada, was in third place behind the NDP, but the Green Party is coming up and the Bloc Québécois has always had a strong presence in Parliament. But there have been attempts to attack your party from going anywhere and attacking you personally. Can you discuss some of that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. The mainstream media, the national mainstream media in Canada, and also the establishment political parties didn't want and don't want any competition. And so we didn't have any cover from the mainstream media. They're looking at us right now because we're growing so fast in the polls and they don't have any choice to look at us. But our party was attacked at the last election in 2019. That was our first election. We had 1.6% of the vote. But in Canada, it took 20 years and 6 elections for the Green Party of Canada to have more than 1.6%. We did that our first year, and now we are around 10% in the polls. They attacked us because of our policy at the last election on immigration. We want sustainable immigration. We don't want mass immigration. And now we want to have people that will come here and share our Canadian values. And because of that, they were saying that we're a racist party, xenophobe. That was not true. And actually, they cannot play that card anymore at this campaign because everybody knows that it is not true. And now we are focusing on, we have the same platform that we had at the last campaign, but the focus on this campaign. And I believe that election can be a referendum on COVID-19. The question that Canadians will ask them, do you want more and more government control or more freedom? And as you know, we want more freedom in this country, and now that's not what we have. Actually, here in Quebec City, I'm in Montreal right now. We have a COVID-19 mandate and passport, so I cannot go because I decided not to take the vaccine. I'm 58 years old, and my chances of dying if I have COVID are 0.5%. So I have 99.5% chances of surviving from COVID. I decided not to take that vaccine, but because I didn't have the vaccine, I cannot go to restaurant, I cannot go to a theater, I cannot participate in a civil society. That's discrimination, that's segregation, and it will happen all across the country because Trudeau and O'Toole, the two major political parties, want to give $1 billion that we don't have to provinces for being sure that the provinces will implement a vaccine passport. And now Ontario said that they will implement one at the end of this month. In BC, they will have also one. So it will be all everywhere. It will be a show me your paper society. And a lot of Canadians don't want that. And that's why our party is growing right now.
Can you explain how Canada, which is a country of frontiersmen living in an unforgiving, cold climate, has become so eager for the boot on their neck? I find it baffling to me.
Yeah, it started with Trudeau in 2015. And all that woke culture, that political correctness, racial politics. I'll give you an example. Trudeau decided to have a program only for Black entrepreneurs. That's a racial politics. And what we must do is to abolish a program like that. And we must have a program for all entrepreneurs. But Trudeau is the most divisive prime minister in our history. Since 2015, when he became the prime minister. He used to divide us by race, by sex, by gender, and now by COVID-19 status, if we have the vaccine or not. And that's a strong discrimination because I won't be able to travel all across the country by plane after the election because I didn't have the vaccine. And it's discrimination. Why doing that? And what we want to do at the People's Party of Canada is to unite Canadians under the freedom umbrella.
This is time for the tough question. Who is a worse prime minister, Justin Trudeau or Kim Campbell?
I think King Campbell, she was very bad, but for a short term. So my answer will be Justin Trudeau, because after 6 years, he was successful to destroy our way of life. And with his political correctness and all these woke culture, Trudeau said that there's no recession anymore. He called that a she-session, because he said that more ladies and women are more affected by a recession. It's all that woke culture that it's crazy, and it's everywhere now. It's in our universities, at school, in journalism in Canada. We don't have at the national level, I must say at the national level, because I'm traveling across the country, and local newspaper and local journalists are professional, but our national CBC, CTV, Global, they're leftist activists. And so it's everywhere. And that's why I said we must start that common sense and freedom revolution in this country. And I believe it will start the 28th of September.
Here's an argument I'm sure you get a lot, as anyone who's a third party gets. If I vote for the People's Party, I'm wasting my vote. I should vote for the Conservatives. Now, you can speak on this because you were an MP from the Conservative Party. What would be your answer to that criticism?
Yeah, my answer is the Conservative Party of Canada is not a conservative anymore. And I said that when I left the Conservative Party 4 years ago. I said that party is morally and intellectually corrupt. I was right at that time, and I'm right also today. A lot of people can see that now. And so the Conservative Party of Canada is taking your vote for granted. And look at their platform. Therefore, the Paris Accord, therefore imposing a carbon tax, therefore mass immigration. They won't balance the budget like Justin Trudeau. They are spending money that we don't have. They are not fiscal conservative. They try to buy your vote with borrowed money on the vaccine passport. They're ready to impose a passport all across the country. That's unconstitutional, that's illegal, that's immoral. So on all these important issues, and I can go on, and they won't build pipelines in this country. We need to have pipelines for the prosperity of our country and for the unity of our country. We have a system in Canada we call the equalization formula. Rich provinces are giving money to poor provinces, but the formula is unfair, and we need to change the formula to be less generous. And O'Toole and Trudeau won't speak about that. So what I'm telling them, Canadians, you may end up with a liberal or a conservative government, but that will be the same. So yes, I'm telling you that I won't be prime minister after this election. We are building a movement. We are part of a revolution, and now we're growing. If you look at the Green Party after 38 years, on average, historically, in the polls, about 4%, 5%, and 6% for the last 38 years. And after 3 years, we are at 10% in the poll and growing. So I'm telling you, don't vote against something. Vote for something. Vote for your values. You want to save our country because we are putting our country first and Canadian first. Vote for yourself. Vote for the PPC. I'm going to use a slogan. I think it's in New Hampshire. Live free and vote PPC.
Do you think your party is more successful than the Greens because you're so much more charismatic than Elizabeth May?
I don't know, but I know that we have the best ideas. So I think that's because of our ideas. And that's what I'm saying to Canadians. I said, the platform that we have for this election was the same platform that we had at our first election in 2019, and it will be the same one at the next election until we achieve our goals, until we are able to do these bold reforms that we need to do to gain back our country. And we cannot take for granted our freedom anymore in Canada. So it's like a dictatorship, a communist country. Imagine that every time you want to go to a restaurant, you have to have a paper or your cell phone. And we know they're doing that discrimination and segregation for nothing. We have the science on our side. We know that everybody can spread the virus the vaccinated people and the unvaccinated
Of
people.
course, yes.
So everybody can spread it. Why doing a division like that? Why dividing the population? Just only for more control.
Hey there, auto mechanics and super cool do-it-yourself guys like myself who work on their own cars like myself. I want to tell you about rockauto.com. It's an online store with every auto part at the best prices. It's your one-stop shop for everything auto parts. Rockauto.com has been in business for 20 years, and they make it easy to find the parts that you and I need at the best possible prices. Don't you hate it when you're talking to counter guys and you need to order your parts? They aren't really sure what you're looking for. They don't have quite what you need. And after all the hassle, they still charge you storefront markups. That drives me crazy. At rockauto.com, you can easily find everything you need. And whether you're a mechanic like myself, an auto shop, or working on your own car, everyone has access to the same incredible pricing at rockauto.com. So if you're a car guy, and who isn't, right now go to rockauto.com and check out all the parts available for your car. You're going to have so much fun looking at car parts. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about on this one. Once more, go to rockauto.com. No promo code needed because their pricing is already that good. And when you order, be sure to tell rockauto.com that you heard them on Your Welcome. rockauto.com. Let's get back to the show.
I was born in the Soviet Union and I lived in New York my entire life. And this is one of the big reasons that made me leave. The idea that if I want to go to a restaurant and have a meal, I have to show some kind of card is so unconscionable and obscene to me. And as you said, just because I'm vaccinated or unvaccinated, I could still spread it. So it's just completely nonsensical. As with any disease, you should be intelligent and act strategically and make plans for your health, as opposed to assuming other people are going to take care of it for you. And it's a pandemic. There's only so much you can control. One of the things you were discussing is immigration. Now, Canada does have a kind of a unique immigration system. It's not open borders. What is the Trudeau policy and how would your policy differ from his?
Yeah, for Trudeau, he believes in mass immigration, so more and more immigrant. We used to have, a couple of years ago, an average of 150,000 newcomers every year. And we used to do an interview with them, ask them questions about if they share our Canadian values, if they know that a man and a woman must be equal before the law. And now we don't do that anymore. We this year, it will be 400,000 people that will come to our country. Don't forget, it's a country of 38 million people. So 38 million people, and now 400,000 of them every year. And after 2 years, it will be the population of one province in Canada, Nova Scotia. And the majority of them, 76% of them, are refugees and people coming under the reunification of family, are not skilled immigrants that will come here with a job and help us to build this country. And we know when you are a new immigrant and you have a job, it's easier for you to participate in our society, to be part of the society. So what we want to do, we want to have fewer immigrants, 150,000 a year, but the majority of them must be skilled immigrants that will come here and will have a job, because a Canadian entrepreneur was not able to find a Canadian for that job. So, and we want to have fewer refugees and reunificate people coming under reunification of family. People coming under reunification of family, it's the granddad, grandmom that are coming here. That's a big cost for the society. They are not working. And so we want to have people that will help to build this country. And actually right now, if you know, in Quebec, in my own province, people are crossing the border illegally at the Roxham Road, not at an official point of entry like everybody, but illegally in the wood. And we let them enter to our country. And they claim that they are refugees, but they're not refugees. When you're coming from the state of New York, your life is where your life is not in danger. You're not a refugee. So we want to stop that. But we're not American. We won't build a wall, but we can build a fence and telling them that if they want to come here, they need to be a real refugee.
America's not building a wall either. So I guess we're once again on the same page. In America, there's an increasing division between people in the cities who are getting further and further to the left and people in other parts of the country. And I'm sure in Canada, it's like Alberta and the Western provinces. Are you seeing this increasing divide between urban and rural in Canadian culture as well?
Absolutely, yes. Like in the US, in the big cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, the leftists are everywhere. And yes, they have more support from the population. But in rural Canada, that's where our party is growing. But also, if I look in Alberta, in Calgary, that is a big city, conservative are still the majority over there. So I believe that Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, that will be the most leftist cities in Canada.
One of the things that Canada tries to pride itself on is having fair elections. For example, when I was in Montreal, they had ads for vote for this person or that person, but it just had their picture and their name. There wasn't slogans or anything like that. So the government does try to keep it as fair as possible. At the same time, do you think the People's Party has been getting a fair shot at reaching the electorate?
No, I believe that this election would be a fair election. In Canada, we never used and we won't use the Dominion machines that you use in certain states in the US. So we're doing that in the traditional way by counting the ballots, and that will be fair. But for us as a new political party, as I said, the leftist media didn't cover us during that election. We still have 12 days before the election, and we didn't have our fair coverage, because if they were always speaking about the five other parties, there's five parties, the Conservative and the Liberals, and after that you have the NDP, the Green Party, and a party that is only in Canada, in Quebec, the Bloc Québécois. So, but they were speaking about the Bloc Québécois and the Green, when right now we are higher in the polls than the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party, and they don't want to cover us. So yes, the visibility, we didn't have the visibility that a smaller party than us had during this campaign, but actually we are still growing. I'm traveling across the country. I'm on the road. I'll be in Quebec today, tomorrow, and the day after, Toronto, and out west. And I try to be very present on social media, but also with the local traditional media, local newspaper. They're neutral in their coverage, and it's easier for us to have some coverage with them.
Something I've been very disturbed at is seeing footage of police violently pulling people from their homes in Canada and basically assaulting people who aren't really doing anything violent at all. And it seems that a lot of this behavior is actually being cheered by other Canadians. I'd like to hear your thoughts on these videos and how you would address it differently.
Yes, first of all that was illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral, and we are fighting against that, these lockdowns and vaccine passport and all that. And myself, personally, I was arrested, handcuffed, and put in jail for a non-crime after a political gathering in a park in Manitoba, because the despot over there, the prime minister over there, didn't want me to do a rally in Winnipeg. I had a huge rally, so the only way to stop me was to put me in jail. I was in jail for, I believe, 12 hours. So that's happening in Canada right now. We must fight that, and we are the only political party that is fighting against these draconian and authoritarian measures that are imposed on Canadians right now. And I can tell you that when I was in jail, I had maybe a neutral coverage in English Canada about that, and they were saying, putting in jail a politician because he's campaigning, that's not our country. But in the francophone press, in my own, I'm a francophone, as you can see with my accent. So the francophone press were saying, "Good for you, Bernier. Good for you. You didn't respect the health order, and you had to quarantine," because I had to quarantine for 15 days before doing any rally. But we are before that was before the official political campaign, and I was campaigning to be ready for that campaign. So I didn't quarantine, and I was not sick. And so in the francophone media, they were saying, "Good for you, Bernier. You have to listen to the rules." And I think that attitude is there in Quebec and in the big cities in outside Quebec.
Historically speaking, we use the word fascist is thrown around a lot in politics. Someone doesn't like as a fascist, but the imprisoning of someone's political opponents, to me, seems to be a very basic, elementary aspect of fascism. How concerned are you for the future of Canada, given what's been going on?
Well, I'm very concerned, and the good news is I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
A lot more Canadians are coming on our side because of that, and they know that must stop. and people coming from former communist country, they saw that in the beginning, and now Canadians are more and more Canadians are looking at it. What is that after 19 months? Why are you speaking about another lockdowns this fall and imposing us a vaccine passport when everybody can spread the virus? There's no logic there, and more people are on our side. And I think we will win that battle, but I don't know when. This party is growing. I know that if we have the conservative or the liberals in power, I believe that it would be one of the other. They will impose what they are saying, because still a majority of the population are afraid of that COVID-19 virus. And we must learn to live with that virus. If not, we will have to learn to live with injustice. And that will be the case. But now still the majority of the population are afraid, and they're on the side of the government for imposing these vaccine passport. That's why the official opposition, the Conservative Party of Canada, never said anything about that, because their only role is to be in power. They don't promote conservative views or freedom policies. They just want to be in power. They're doing polling and survey, and they know that the majority is on the more authoritarian side. So they're speaking like liberals, and that by doing that, they're giving more credibility to the leftist narrative. And more people understand that we are the only real populist, smart populist party defending our freedom.
We have a Canadian guest today, and I'm honored to promote a Canadian company. Fume is a Canadian-made wood inhaler with no electronics and cores, filled only with the benefits of super plants, no chemicals added. What does this mean? If you're a cigarette smoker and if you're vaping and you want to kick that habit, Fume is a great resource to make that happen, because you will still have something to do with your hands when you have to do that ritual after a meal, when you're at a party, after you've had a drink. It's a great way to transition to a smoke-free, nicotine-free, healthier lifestyle. If you go to breathefume.com, breathefum.com, and use code MALICE10, you get 10% off your order. It looks like a steampunk vape. It's this wooden tube, and at the end you pull these cores, which are kind of like styrofoamy, but they're filled with like lemon, lime, and spearmint, peppermint, eucalyptus, clove, all sorts of stuff. If you go to breathefume.com/malice, or use code MALICE10, you save 10%, and you're making yourself a healthier person in the process. Let's get back to the show.
Canada, just like Great Britain, has a first past the post system, in that the person who has the most votes, which was a plurality in a riding, gets the seat, as opposed to someone who has to get a majority. If I recall correctly, in 2015, Trudeau campaigned on having proportional representation in parliament, meaning if your party got 10% of the vote, and this is kind of like in Germany with the Bundestag, you're going to get a certain amount of seats. Has he even tried to pass that, or is that just a lie that just went in the garbage immediately?
No, that was just another lie, and he was able to be in government, so he didn't do any reform, like a lot of lies that he said to Canadians. For us, yes, this system is not advantageous for us, but with 10% in the polls right now, I believe that we'll be able to elect some of our candidates, maybe not 100, maybe not 50, but I'm telling Canadians, you will have a freedom voice in Canada, a common sense freedom voice in Parliament, and we will start that common sense revolution. Yes, it will have been easier for us if we had another system, a proportional, but we'll see what will happen, and maybe in the near future that system will change. But right now, our preoccupation is to increase our percentage of the vote, having some candidates that will be in Parliament, and starting that battle of ideas.
What do you think of Trudeau's management of the very famous Canadian healthcare system, and how would your approach be different?
It's a socialist healthcare system, and it must be managed by provinces only. It's a provincial jurisdiction, not a federal one. But Trudeau is giving a lot of money to provinces. $41 billion to provinces for healthcare. And the provinces didn't have any incentive to have a better system, a mixed system where everybody will have a universal coverage, but they will be able to choose if they want to go to a public hospital or a private one, like in Sweden, like in Europe. And these systems are more efficient and they don't have any waiting list. We have huge waiting lists here in Canada. So the solution is not to give more money to provinces. Our solution, it is a provincial jurisdiction, so we must stop giving money to provinces and give them the ability to be able to raise the money for their own responsibility. And what we will do, we will give them the GST. In Canada, we have a sales tax, a GST. We'll give them the GST, and they will be able to raise money for their own responsibility. And like that, Canadians will know to blame for lack of services with their healthcare system. Now they don't know, is it the federal government because the federal government is not giving enough money to a province, or is it the province because they're not efficient at managing the system? Now they will know because the provincial government will have the responsibility, and they will be able to raise money for their own constitutional responsibility. And if they don't want to put more money in that system, they will have to open to a mixed system, and that will be the better system. But that's the real reform that we must do. But O'Toole and Trudeau, they won't solve the problem, because putting more money in that basket won't solve anything.
What is your relationship like with your colleagues who are still members of the Conservative Party? Do they cheer for you behind closed doors? Do they regard you as a traitor, taking votes from them? What's it like?
But they're afraid of us. They're afraid of us because we know that we are growing pretty fast. And in the beginning, they were ignoring us. But now during this election, I believe that they don't like that we are successful. We are successful because they're liberals right now, and we are doing politics based on principle. We don't do any pollings at the PPC. We have a vision for this country with a smaller government in Ottawa, more freedom, more free market, more competition, speaking for our country first, putting Canadian first, and we won't do any compromise with that. So I didn't have any contact with my former colleagues. I didn't ask them to come with us because I know that when I was running for being the leader of that party, the Conservative Party of Canada, I had 49% of the vote from the membership, but only 4 MPs on 99 supported me. So I didn't waste my time to try to speak with them. We will grow that party, and if they want to come on board, they'll be welcome.
How would you compare O'Toole as a leader to former Prime Minister Stephen Harper?
Oh, that's you cannot compare them. You cannot do that. He is not Harper. Harper was a principled politician, and he had a vision for our country. But O'Toole is just there to try to be prime minister by telling you what you want to hear. And now leftists and the leftist propaganda is very popular. So he's a leftist, and O'Toole. When I was running against him to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada in 2017. He was the red Tory, the liberal Tory. And now he is worse than at that time and more. So no principle, is not a conservative. He is not helping the conservative cause in our country by speaking like a liberal and having policies that are like the Liberal Party of Canada.
If Canadians want to get involved with your party and support your campaign, what are the best resources for them to do so?
I hope they can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. They can follow me on Twitter, Maxime Bernier. They can follow me also on Instagram, and you'll see our platform on our website. They can look at it. I hope, if they know some Canadians, that because our challenge right now is a lot of Canadians don't know that we exist. And so that's our biggest challenge, because the mainstream media is canceling us. So if they know some Canadians that they can forward our policies or informing them about that interview and what we are doing, that will help us to grow our party a little bit faster.
I really wish you all the best, because again, as someone who is an enormous fan of Canada, it is very heartbreaking to me to see what is happening to your country. We're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
First of all, I think that interview with you, that's the first time, Michael. I hope we'll have another interview after the election, so I'll be able to debrief you of what happened here in this country. And I appreciate your honesty and your questions that are fair. And it's for me, it's a nice opportunity, because I have the ability and the opportunity to speak to your viewers. So I want to thank you for that.
You are welcome.